Hey everyone, welcome to Patriot Soapbox, where I give you my commentary on the news of the day, as reported by the Wall Street Journal. First up, I want to revisit Project Nightingale, which I talked about yesterday. It's Google's plan to build a healthcare database so they can so patients can get better care and that kind of thing. Well, naturally, because Google, they ran some problems with lawmakers at state and federal level who well, their plan technically isn't illegal, but the lawmakers still criticized it. First of all, there's an obvious issue of taking people's names, addresses, and like allergies, their immunization records, all that kind of stuff, and more, and putting in a database. So that alone raises concerns that they might be using it for malicious ends. But the other big concern, they didn't ask anyone first. They just did it. Millions of Americans across 21 states, 21, Google just took their healthcare records without, or rather copied them without their permission. They didn't even inform them of this. So yeah, Google is not, Google rarely gets along with the government, but especially not now. Also, yesterday I mentioned how DACA is now coming before the Supreme Court. So there's the main reaction in the court was one of sympathy, but also the fact that, yes, President Trump can repeal DACA, because it was an executive action, which means that Trump, by executive action, can undo it. And so the conservatives said, yeah, we feel bad for these guys who brought to the U.S. as kids. Remember, they're all adults now. Average age of one of the dreamers is 26. So they said, yeah, we feel bad that they were brought here without their will, but they're still breaking the law, and Obama had no authority to issue that, to create DACA. Whereas liberals are saying, yeah, we don't agree with Trump's decision, but it's within his legal right to do it. Allegedly the reason why DACA had been blocked before by federal judges in New York, California, and D.C. is because Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General at the time of DACA's repeal, only issued a one-page report about it. So apparently that wasn't enough detail. So conservatives' issue is he just can't do it. Obama just couldn't have done that in the first place, and they obviously disagree with the policy. Liberals agree with the policy, but they say that, well, it's technically within Trump's right to get rid of DACA. So I think the repeal of DACA will probably be upheld. At worst, the Supreme Court will probably say, okay, why don't you provide that? Bill Barr is now the Attorney General, so they'll probably ask him to provide a more detailed report. But other than that, it's probably going to be allowed. Speaking of how our loan law should apply to illegal immigrants, not to illegal immigrants, but to foreigners, federal judges ruled yesterday that border agents can't search international travelers' phones and electronic devices without their permission. So the reason I say, and speaking of that, is because it's a similar issue here. I mean, DACA, part of what it comes down to is how do our laws apply to foreigners? Same thing here. Currently, the federal government, even though it's pretty much unconstitutional, they search our phones. They're not. Should they be allowed to search the phones of travelers here? This federal judge says no. It might get appealed to the Supreme Court. We don't know. But yeah, the only condition on which they can do so is if the travelers allow them to, and if they have reasonable suspicion that they've committed a crime. So if some guy's coming through with visibly carrying several pounds of fentanyl or cocaine, then they can search that guy's phone. But if it's just some random person from Europe or China or whatever coming to visit the U.S., Border Patrol can't do anything. They can't search the phones. That's not, because they have no reason. Well, they might have reason, but Then I like this. I like the hypocrisy of this title. Israel kills a militant leader in Gaza. When it's when Palestinians attack Israel, it rarely gets any coverage, and if it does, it says the jihadists or Hezbollah or Hamas that attack. Whereas in this case, it's always Israel attacks Palestinians. They didn't attack Palestinians. Well, okay, this guy was Palestinian. They attacked a militant group, not Palestinian civilians. You see the distinction there in the media manipulation? Israel can't defend itself without being accused of effectively murdering civilians, which is ridiculous because they can do what they want within their borders. And Israel, and like every other country that currently exists, they have a legitimate right to existence. I mean, their existence is no more legitimate than, or no less legitimate than any others. Be that Great Britain, the United States, China, India, Saudi Arabia, etc. Bolivia is in a bit of trouble after their president fled at Mexico under charges of election fraud. So one lawmaker who is in the opposition party claims the presidency, but the backers of the president say that's not cool with them because they think that someone from their party should get picked. So I mean, while it was good that the president left, I guess in one respect because it prevents a bloodbath between his supporters and his opponents, it also leads to chaos because they have no real clear leader and debate over who actually has authority to rule now. Over to the op-ed section, we have Democrats are instead of deciding just to wait and see if they get full control of the federal government in 2020 to raise taxes, they're trying to do it now, which I'm not exactly sure how they're going to push that through. But points for trying. So the newest laws, or rather bill that's being proposed, the Millionaire Surtax Act, which would soak the top 0.2% of earners by raising the current tax rate on people with the current top tax rate from 37% to 47%. So this would affect millionaires, like pretty much just millionaires, and it would allegedly raise an extra $635 billion over a decade. That doesn't take into account all the loopholes and deductions that rich people can get that make their effective tax rate much lower. So, this article points out that the 47% rate, that's similar to before Reagan's big tax reform in 1986, top rate was 50%. So we're effectively regressing about a few decades in tax policy if this law were to be passed. And it also points out that Trump's tax cut, which is reviled on the political left for giving tax cuts to the rich, which it also gave them to the middle class. And notice they didn't list the poor there. That's because the poor don't pay income tax. I'm not kidding. If you're poor, you don't pay taxes. Well, you pay payroll tax. You don't pay income tax. So I actually don't even think you pay. There's some people who don't pay either even if they work. So yeah, it really is just the rich and the middle class who pay taxes. So yeah, not only did Trump give taxes across the board, but also he limited the amount of state and local taxes that can be deducted on a federal return, because it used to be unlimited. So if you paid $30,000 in state and local taxes, you could deduct that from your federal tax return. Now it's capped at $10,000. So I mean, some people, depending on your income level and what state you live in, you might fall well within the limit to deduct all your state and local taxes, but some people, not so much. And liberals often like to point to the fact that under Eisenhower's administration in the 1950s, the top tax rate was 92%. But that doesn't take into account the fact that there were so many loopholes and deductions back then that the effective tax rate, or top tax rate, was 16.9%. So, yeah. When you hear them say, well, you Republicans, you support this high tax rate, that's not really how things played out. And currently, also, the final point here that I want to highlight is that currently the top 1% of earners pay 37%. In 2016, they paid 37% of all taxes. And we hear the term the 1% and 99% a lot, but guess how much money you have to make to be in the top 1%. I'm gonna give you I'm gonna wait about 10 seconds for you to think of your answer, and then I'll tell you. Ready? Go. All right, you got your answer. If you do, comment below. I bet a lot of you get this wrong because you think of, when you think of like the 1%, we think of like millionaires and billionaires. But the actual number is $500,000 or $500,000. That puts you in the top 1%. So 1% isn't like, I mean, $500,000 is still like a year is still pretty rich, but when you factor in the taxes, it's really like, it's not like rich. It's rich, but it's not like super rich. It's not the people that Democrats love to revile. And yeah, 37% of taxes is a lot. The top 10%, so everyone above about I think 135,000 a year, which really that's more like upper middle class. If you think about it, they pay 70% of all taxes. So what should the top 1% be paying? Half? Should we bump it up to 50%? How about up to 2/3? 3/4? How much is fair share? Okay, that's my main question here. How high of a tax rate, or how much, what percentage of the federal taxes should be paid by the top 1% before, or even the top 10% before it's considered their fair share? And what exactly is your fair share of what someone else has earned? Go ahead, I'll wait. Lay it on me. What is your fair share of what someone else has earned? What is it? Zero. That's why I'm against welfare. Next up, there's one of the main Supreme Court cases that'll come up during this term is one that is Comcast versus National Association of African American Owned Media, because Comcast wouldn't air their television thing and they're claiming racial discrimination. When Comcast has at least many civil rights organizations, including Al Sharpton's National Action Network, have gotten their programs aired on Comcast, so they don't discriminate based on race. It's just a simple case of they didn't get the deal they wanted with Comcast, and now they're mad and trying to find every excuse they can. So, depending on this court case's rule, this could be the start of several laws requiring sort of a racial quota in business dealings. Like you have to do it with this many minority-owned businesses, this many white-owned businesses, this many women-owned businesses, that kind of thing. Which would be a disaster because it essentially amounts to reverse discrimination. Finally, because having rampant crime, homelessness, and poverty, and also having human feces and heroin needles throughout the streets isn't enough for San Francisco, They now have what's this guy's official title? Attorney General of the city? What's his name is Chesa Bowden. Oh yes, District Attorney. He's the District Attorney of San Francisco. They elected him. He says he's not going to prosecute nonviolent crimes like public urination, blocking a sidewalk, and prostitution, and public camping, like what homeless people do. He's gonna order the police not to punish that. But it's still illegal. San Francisco, nor California, nor the United States government have passed laws making any of these things legal, and yet he says he's not going to punish them. So it's kind of a bad state of affairs when your district attorney, the guy who's supposed to be the legal representative of the city, is not going to enforce laws. Because maybe he's not really that good of a district attorney if he's not doing a job he was hired to by the people of San Francisco and enforce the law. So yeah, but apparently, literally crap in the streets is not enough for San Francisco. Now they gotta have this guy. Why do people still live in San Francisco? If I were them, I would have packed it and left years ago. Oh, and this guy, let's not forget that this guy, his parents were members of a left-wing terrorist group that murdered police officers. His voters give no sympathy for the murdered cops, but give a lot of sympathy to his parents who are now incarcerated, because he's like, my parents shouldn't be incarcerated. Yeah, we agree with you. They were in jail. They were in jail for felony homicide. You should stay there forever. I think they deserve the death penalty. But, California can't have the death penalty because apparently it's cruel and unusual punishment. Well, yeah. Oh, and the other stain on his record is that he worked for Hugo Chavez. They worked for his dictatorship in 2009. And in 2009, he wrote an article hailing Chavez's successful elimination of term limits. I think the fact that he's associated with Chavez is a red flag enough. Like, barring the non prosecuting non-violent crimes thing, barring the having the terrorist parents who probably passed their ideology onto their son, barring all that, the fact that they worked for Chavez and wrote an article praising him is reason to doubt that he's going to be a good district attorney in this country. Maybe he's just going to move to Venezuela. Alright, that's all I got for you this time on Paper Your Soapbox. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get more great daily content.